welcome to the Wood and
Welcome. Good
Work
morning.
podcast. We are your hosts, Paul from JCR Builds, myself from Josh Taylor Woodworking. Today we got another special guest, David from David's Woodturning. Welcome, David.
Good morning. Good morning, both.
Morning, David. Nice to see you again. So, for our listeners, stroke viewers, could you just tell people who it is you are, please, David, and where you're from and what it is you do, please?
Brilliant. Yeah. So obviously, my name tells who I am. Is David. So I run David's Woodturning. I primarily focus on woodturning items. Originally, I'm from Hungary. So I've been here in the UK for the past 14 years. Then I went through a number of different roles, and eventually I ended up with woodturning as a hobby. A good 4 years ago, 5 years ago now. And it's really just started as a hobby. So I was doing some smaller project like small bores and pens in my sheds. And then over the past few years, it just really started to kick off. So then I did a YouTube channel, which didn't really do well. So then I stopped it. I renamed my brand to David's Woodturning. And I started a new channel, kind of learning from the previous mistakes. And then that really took off. And then then I started to really focus on woodturning because I just fall in love with making, and and eventually become my full-time job.
I mean, yeah, because a lot of the pieces you've been doing, obviously follow you quite vividly, actively on Instagram. You do a lot of sort of pieces where rather than just being wood, there's sort of you're putting wood or items into epoxy. And
Yes,
you're turning them into like chalices and bowls and quite a very. I mean, Josh just picked up one that he's just saying. He was just having a quick look at your channel just before we came on air.
Yeah.
And like an old chalice you did recently. You know, like one of the old. Is it a chalice or a goblet or?
Well,
like medieval.
Yeah, I call it goblets. Yeah, I call it goblets, and it looks like in the woodturning world, it called goblet. But yeah, I know it is also named differently. But yeah, so initially I started off with wood only, but then I really like resin because it just gives a different purpose to different materials in terms of if I have like a rotten piece of wood, then you can stabilize it with resin and then you can still repurpose it. Or there are some kind of different forms which you wouldn't be able to turn as a wood only project, but with combining resin, then you can get just a very different purpose. Plus, I really like the contemporary look and then the extra vibrant colors, and learning from my audience. That's really what they wanted to see. There is a lot of hate going around epoxy resin and how toxic. But if you actually do some research, resin isn't as bad as people think. It is toxic when it's curing, but as long as you have the relevant PPE, a good respirator to protect you, the end product isn't toxic. Resin actually made from organic materials compared to plastic, which is a synthetic material. So but there's a lot of hate going around epoxy, but I still like using it. And all my videos are really driven by the resin videos. So my wood only projects not as popular as my resin projects. So there is a demand from the viewers. So then as a content creator, I also need to bear in mind what people will watch.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember seeing when I met you last year, you did a golf ball one. Was it a golf ball one? You sort of turned.
Yeah.
And it showed it was. I mean, Josh, I have to have a look down his page later. But basically, I can't remember. But basically, you set a load of golf balls into your resin, and as you turned it, you end up cutting in to the golf balls almost, didn't you? And it exposed the inners.
And they all come to different colors, and it's incredible what they filled with. Yeah. And I did recently a big vase with golf balls, and it's just incredible how it looks. The inside is, I never hoped, that would be so cool. But then from a viewer point of view, because not many people seen a golf ball on the inside, from a viewer point of view, is an exciting project. And, YouTube is just so competitive, and content creation is competitive because there's so many of us. So you have to be some shape or form unique. and show something new to the audience. So that's why I'm trying to dip in with all the vibrant colors, because that's what people tend to like to see and like to purchase. But yeah, sometimes coming up with random projects which really kind of gets the viewer attention. And I was lucky enough to dip in a few projects which then gone extremely well. But yeah, it's all a little of a learning curve.
I mean, one of my favourite ones, and I know you. I mean, the amount of accounts I reported because someone had copied your video or passing off their video as theirs, and they got a lot of hate as well. Was when Prince Harry brought his new book out, and you so he got Prince Harry's new book came out, wasn't it? And you shredded it because it's the only thing that we thought it was worth doing with, and then you cast that in resin, didn't you? And then you made a lovely piece out of a shit book, basically, is what was the point you were making.
Yeah, so you know what is, I was never ever, and I never will be into politics. And I never wanted my channel to be dictated by politics. And the purpose of this project was never to kind of express my political feelings or my opinion. However, like any artist, like especially singers, their songs will be driven by their private life, their professional life, and they put through their feelings through their songs. So I felt I could do both at the same time, where I express my opinion, and I also, as a content creator, I pick up a trend, because everyone was talking about Harry's book. So I bought Harry's book on the same day as it was published, and I chopped it up on my bento, and I said, to express my feeling, and it's not against the royal family, it's not against Harry. I don't know Harry, so I have no place to judge him. But I do have an opinion, like millions of people on social media, the way he exited. So then I decided to turn this into a trash bin. And I put this up on YouTube, and you know what? It triggered so much emotion. But the video didn't do well until I put this on Facebook. And from the first minute, I got so much love and so much hate. But in the world of social media, all the love and all the hate will only trigger algorithm to pick up. So now I think I'm close to 80 million views on Facebook. 80 million views on Facebook, and I have 7 million views on YouTube now.
I think I reported just for this about 20 accounts. So a lot of people copied it, and I'd go on. Excuse me.
Yes, a lot of people.
Like, oh yeah. No, so that I did this. People were claiming of it. I'm like, you did not do that. And they went, well, I did. I went, no, my mate did that because I know who it is that did it. He's my mate. And they went, oh right. And then
so a lot of people tried to. And what was very awful, there is one, and I don't know if I want to name them because I used to work with them, but it's a huge video creator portal on Facebook with many millions of followers. So obviously they did not have, no one had the right to share my content. So they didn't share my content. They actually repurposed it, and they have their own workshop where they create wood turning items, and they did the exact replica of my project, which is just scarily similar. And then they also were able to attract millions and millions of viewers. But yeah, it's social media, and people do naughty things. But yeah, that project just absolutely blew my mind, and
it triggered a lot of different responses from a very wide audience, didn't it, for you?
Yeah, absolutely. But as a content creator, I never wanted to be famous because of these projects, but financially, I was able to reinvest that money back in a business and start growing or continue to grow. So, it was a win-win for me. Generated like another 60,000 extra followers on Facebook. So, can't complain.
No, it did you well, didn't it? In a weird way, it did you very proud almost. But like it's. Yeah, there's quite a few that I've noticed, of those sort of things that you seem to get because of. I remember you saying when we did have a chat that nobody really wants to watch a round dowel being turned into a cup. It's boring to a point, but when you get like a dangerous piece of wood that you put a really irregular tree stump onto your lathe, a lot of people will watch that, won't they? Because they almost want it to explode in your face, I think, when they're almost, or I think, some of the pieces your work's amazing. You know that.
Thank
And it's
you.
like, but you said that some of the dangerous, but appears to be dangerous stuff also attracts the following, or the views, should we say?
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I think is in very sadly is in every human. We do like to see other people fails. Just if you watch there is so many videos when they captured people falling, people tripping,
Yeah.
or people have accidents. People do like to watch them
Hmm.
because I don't know why, but people do enjoy them. So, and then
It's
that's
funny
kind of
watching people
similar
get hurt,
to.
though, isn't it?
But that's similar to this content because when I put like a dangerous looking wood and an odd piece of wood, people do like to see, will the maker get hurt? And then you can also tweak the title. And then, if you put something like a graphic content or don't click on this because it's dangerous, then people will click on it. So if you tell someone not to do it, they will do it. So, but yeah, people do like to watch random scary stuff on the internet.
It goes to show, like, if you have a good idea, you will get millions of views. Like if it was just an ordinary book that you cut up, not Harry's, but that was relevant for the time, so the whole world was watching that. So that was almost trending. And the golf ball one as well. Again, another good original idea. I haven't seen that
I mean,
before.
you've just done, or you've just started. I don't know how much has been released on your Instagram, because I've been off it for a couple of days. I've not caught up with everything quite yet. You've just been doing a Barbie piece, have you not, recently?
Oh yeah. So that's that's again the color concept of Barbie, and Barbie itself is not my taste. But it's another trending topic, and funnily, my sister mentioned you should do something with Barbie because everyone talks about Barbie, and then even when I'm driving to work and everyone talks about Barbie. So and as a content creator, you need to grab those opportunities. So then I started to work on a Barbie project. I had a good vision of what I want to make, and honestly, even though it's not my cup of tea, Barbie, the actual project turned out a stunning piece, and I spent like 35 working hours to make this project. And so far, the responses are really good. The video isn't tracking as good, but we need to give some time. But the actual project turned out really, really cool. So yeah, sometimes I jump on trends, but I have just so many different ideas and some incredible piece of wood. So if it's not a trending topic, I just have some nice firewood I can chuck on the light and see how I can repurpose it. Because all my firewoods I normally purchase from a young guy who works part-time tree surgeon and then cuts down trees what they normally already died or about to die, and they would be chopping them up for firewood. So it's good to save that piece of wood, and then I can repurpose it and give a different meaning rather than just burn it.
Yeah, it's not. You're turning basically trash into treasure, aren't you? To it.
Yeah, no,
To a
absolutely.
point, almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so. What's your sort of favourite thing to? I know obviously you do a lot of epoxy work, but generally at the minute. But what's your sort of favourite thing to make, like a goblet or a dish or a bowl, or do you have like a favourite thing you like making more than any other particular item?
I can't really be dealing with like repetitive work. So for example, someone asked me to do 60 item, like it was a vase, and wanted to order 60 of them. And I said, you know what, it would be a ridiculously good money, but it just does not interest me at all. I can't do production work. So I'm trying to always freshen up my ideas and do something different. So I couldn't pick like a specific item I like to make. So anything. What I do like is the firewood piece where I can repurpose a firewood. And that seemed to be, so I did some polls on my YouTube channel, what they like to see, whether it's segmented wood turning or resin or wood only or repurposing firewood. And that's what seemed to be the winner. So the audience loved to see wood turning project being repurposed. And that's why I also like, because you're looking at a very odd piece of wood. Like I recently finished one ways where it was a rotten piece of wood. No one would touch it because it was soft, it was punky, it was absolutely no use to most people. But then I found a way to stabilize it, which then makes it like rock hard. That I was able to cut it, put it in a bucket, fill it with resin, and then made a stunning, vibrant vase. So that's definitely what probably most joyful is, to bring something back to life.
So
Right, okay.
with your YouTube, so you're on 200,000 followers, which is. Are you doing that full time? Are you earning money?
Yeah, so I was 16 months ago. 16 months ago, I was in senior role, working in restaurants as area manager, and decent money, but very time consuming, very demanding role. And at that time, I already had YouTube as kind of my side hustle, which was generated like a fair bit of income. And I was developing my business over the past 2 or 3 years, 10, 15 hours a week. So I questioned myself, what if I do 50 hours, but I work for my own? I work for my business rather than just 10, 15 hours a week. And because I wasn't really into my work anymore, I said, you know what? I'm just gonna quit and I will try. So then 2022 January, that was my first official month as a full-time maker. And I had a kind of objectives where 6 months I will review my performance, and if I'm not on track, then I will go back to work in operations. And honestly, it didn't take more than 2 or 3 months. Everything started to grow. I went from pretty much from 40,000 followers in a year. I went to 400,000 followers across my all social platforms. And it's just really changed my life. And yeah, YouTube is a great platform. My first biggest one is Facebook, where I have around 350,000 followers. So in conjunction with YouTube, that provides me with with a revenue stream what I'm able to live off. Yes.
Amazing. That's a lot of people's dream on a hobby is to
absolutely.
making it full time. That's great. So with your lathes, right? Did you buy them new, second hand? Do you have 1, 2, 3?
Yes, I bought an Axminster lathe when I started off. Is a huge tools and machines store in the UK, and I do like them because they produce some fine machineries, and their customer service also great. So I bought my first lathe, a very small one, just on a overbench small lathe. It was good to make small bores and pans. Then I very quickly fall in love in turning, and then I upgraded to another one, then to another one. And then I moved into a workshop. I bought another one, a small one for kind of finishing. And then I bought the biggest one from Axminster. So I have 2 lathes, and one of them is like a trade quality with some beefy power. And
what's that one called?
It's an Axminster. I think is AP508. Very fancy name. But basically it can turn something like 500. It's like half a meter diameter bore if I want to. So it's a big beefy lathe. But yeah, I do own another smaller Axminster lathe as well, which I primarily use to do some resin coating or when I do spray lacquer finish. And I can kind of use the small lathe, which is, I have a designated room in my workshop, which is for epoxy. Is a fully insulated room, keeps the dust away, and then I can heat it up or cool it down in summer or winter. And I do my finishing work in a small separated room.
Because that's the problem with wood turning, or one of the problems is it's super messy, isn't it? Because as you're turning, a lot of stuff comes off, doesn't it, off the piece of turning.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So, and obviously you don't want all that. I mean, I know when we do epoxy, there's always that fucking fly that gets in there, isn't there? You know what I mean? Always. No matter how hard you try, there's always a fly. But it's that sort of thing where you've got to be dust free with epoxy, and obviously, I mean, as you say, epoxy's in its when you're mixing it, you get if you're not, you need to wear a respirator, 100%.
Yeah, no, of course,
because you can get high as a kite. I mean, I was doing a bit of filming for mine here. I was wearing one. I totally forgot, and the missus was filming with one of the extra cameras for me, and she didn't have a mask on. She ended up with a fucking migraine, didn't she, because of all the fumes? I totally forgot to give her a mask. But yeah, it's quite unstable and can be quite dangerous, can't it? And as it's curing. I mean, do you stick with a particular brand of resin, or do you fluctuate a little bit with the brand of resin itself that you use?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I was very much into kind of exploring different manufacturers, and then I settled down with one provider in the UK, and honestly, I don't think I ever had any failure because of the resin. It was because of me kind of stretching the limits of that resin. But I'm using Vista resin, and it's produced it produced and manufactured in the UK.
Yeah.
And I have a great relationship with them, and not just because I'm an ambassador for Vista resin, but it's probably one of the best resin, and price wise is also one of the most affordable resin in the UK. And most of the resin you can't really cast more than 2-inch or 5 centimeter deep. And then with Vista resin, I did 15 centimeter in a single go. Like the Barbie project, I put my project in the fridge for overnight. I took it out, put it in my pressure pot the following day, and it cured rock solid. So I did so much experiments, and it's not cheap doing experiments with resin. But now I know, but now I know how I can kind of stretch the limits and kind of go away from the manufacturer recommendation and breaking all the rules of casting resin. So then I can, because I can cast resin, in 3-4 different layers, but then you will see the line in the resin, which I don't like it. So like I'm working on a huge piece, which kind of dreading me, where I will pour like a massive amount of resin in a huge container, and I just don't know how I'm gonna control resin. So I'm gonna stick it in my fridge, which then will dramatically slow down curing. So I will avoid exothermic reaction. But it's all about experimenting and doing. But I do fail sometimes.
You must have a big fridge.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. I use Vista resin. That's what I've been using. So I've used other brands in the past, for other pieces. I mean, I don't use that much epoxy. I've only done a few projects. But what attracted me, because I think there was a couple of people that said about Vista, and I thought, I'll give that a go this time. And obviously the price did attract me to Vista as well.
Yeah.
But you know what? I've had one failure with it, and that's because I didn't mix it properly. So it was user error, not product error. And I must admit, I really like it. I'm not a massive fan of their. I mean, I've got a full set of their liquid dyes, for the colouring. I'm not a fan of them. I find that they just don't seem to work very well.
Yeah. You know what? I love them, but I love their resin. I don't use any of their liquid, and honestly, I did give the recommendation to dip into the mica powders and some different, because
I prefer powders.
I recently started to use black diamond pigments, and honestly, it blew my mind. I use pigments from, I'm not a loyal person when it comes to pigments, so I don't just use one brand. I buy them from Amazon, from eBay, from different providers. But I always wanted to try them, and now we have this UK supplier who distributes them.
Yeah, it's Rich. Well, we've actually had Richard on in the past.
Yeah.
Remember RJ Creations, Josh? He was one of the CNC guy, one of our very first guests on. Richard now actually is the UK distributor for Black Diamond pigments.
Oh, is he?
Yeah. It's something I need to try. I need to try them, to be honest. I'm not trying.
Yeah, so some of the, especially the kind of the color shifting, the multicolor pigments, they're not cheap. I think I paid think I paid 2 gram was 16 quid, which is a lot of money because 2 gram will not take
Everything
you.
coke, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean 2 gram. Honestly, 2 gram is probably for a little goblet or very small vase. Can give some really good colors. But if you want to do a table, you need probably 50 gram. Then it will be a bloody expensive table. But the colors,
pigment does go a long way. I mean, pigment goes a long way, doesn't it? But you say if you're doing a table and you need 50 gram of pigments, that I mean that starts adding on to the price.
I've spoken to a friend of mine that pours resin every other week, and he said he doesn't use any liquids because they're all inconsistent across the board. He's used many different brands, and he's ended up with black diamond pigments. That's what he uses, predominantly powder, but he doesn't use any liquid because you just can't get the consistency right.
I got them all to try, as you say, they just don't seem right.
Yeah, no, and then a black diamond is.
What about if you use a lot of the liquid? I haven't used liquid myself.
If you use too much liquid, though, because I think with the Vista, I mean, I might be wrong with the actual quantities here, but they say anything up to 1%, I think it is, of the pigment. It's just like a dye liquid, up to 1% of the volume that you're doing. But as you're mixing it in, it almost seems to be like, as you say, very dark in one spot and translucent in the other spots. And you can almost find yourself over mixing the epoxy to get the colour to be consistent all the way through. Whereas the pigments, you put a teaspoon of pigment in, say, and it mixes dead easy. It mixes so much easier, I find. I just don't like that. I just don't like. I mean, I've got like the two tester sets. So like 100 ml. I've got 20 100 ml bottles of all the different colours you do. And they're probably going to end up in the trash bin, to be honest, because as you say, though, I bought years ago, well, not years, maybe a year or so ago, I bought like a little, I suppose like nail varnish size pots of about 30 different pigments on Amazon for about 13 quid. Only a no-name, non-branded thing. And they're brilliant. They just give such nice, clean. I mean, I mainly only do resin coasters, you know what I mean? That's smaller pieces. Done a few tables and what have you, but they just seem consistent. And every time I use a liquid, I find because it's not always mixed all the way through, and there seems to be a bit of the epoxy that hasn't set because it's not mixed properly because the dye is too much. There's too much dye in that little pocket of resin, and it just doesn't set. And that bit that doesn't set fucks the entire piece. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, David, with your 200,000 followers on YouTube, how did you get to that? What was the process? Can you talk us through that?
I'm a little over 100 videos, I guess, on YouTube, but it was just all about start posting it. So, my first channel was me being front of the camera, talking, and
what was it called? Your first channel?
It was the Wooden Joy. So I said it would be kind of fun to bring a bit of fun in it, and then obviously reference to wooden items, and that that didn't do well, and I have to learn from it. The viewers didn't seem to maybe enjoy my accent or me being in front of the camera, or they just wanted to see the project being shown rather than me talking. So my audience retention wasn't great. It was like 20-25% of my videos were viewed, and from a YouTube point of view, that just gives algorithm a bad sign. People not interested in your content. So then obviously I looked at a lot of other YouTubers and I tried to learn from them. So then I did my second channel with the learnings from the first one. I wasn't talking, I wasn't in front of the camera. I shortened my videos and I just showed them what I do. And I put up a few videos, and I think my fourth or my fifth video got like a good traction. I had less than 1,000 subscribers, and I think I reached 40,000 views on YouTube, which was brilliant. And that gave me a positive momentum, and then I was able to build on that. So then I continue with my builds, and then when I've really dipped into resin projects, my channel started to grow. And then I had back over a year ago, I had my best video is on 27 million views on YouTube, where I transformed again a firewood into a cooler king vase. and that brought in like 50,000 new subscribers. So that's really give me a push. And then after all these viral videos, it's just keeps you going.
It's quite interesting because I met David at an event, should we say, last year that we were all working at, and basically we were sat down to breakfast. I think it was on the second day, and he's like, "Oh yeah, just this is my video," because we were working together through thing, and he showed me the video. And do you know what? My missus was watching that the other. I walked into our lounge the week before, and the missus was watching a wood-turning video. I'm like, what are you doing watching a wood-turning video? 'Cause she doesn't do it, and it was actually David's video. I was like,
Oh, really?
I was like, that's mad. Do you know what I mean? And it was that video that you said that's on like 27 million views or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was just so bizarre. I was like, hey, that was only my lounge last week. And I at the time, I mean, I'd spent the entire previous day with David, and in the evening we went out on a social, and then obviously the morning we sat there having breakfast. Like, it's you. I never put it all together at all. It was quite surreal. You know what I mean? It just wasn't. It was quite weird, but yeah, it was. Yeah, like you said though, that really sort of, like as you said, that sort of pivoted. You said that, 'cause we had a good chat about the whole, because I'd just started my YouTube journey then. And we had a good chat, and it was really interesting. You were saying that people just want to see you turn.
Yeah, but I have a lot of questions where people wants to learn from me in terms of how to do content creation, and it's not a simple formula. If doing
No, it's
content
not.
creation part time is, I would say, is nearly impossible, because you need to live and breathe social media to learn. And I have so many people who wants to become famous on YouTube, but they don't watch YouTube, and it's impossible. It's
I'll
impossible
tell you
to
what is a good
succeed.
formula.
It's impossible to succeed on social media if you don't do social media.
Yeah,
Because I spend so much time looking at my analytics, but I also spend so much time looking at, well, not my competitors, because there is no. I don't feel like in the field of content creation there is competition, because the internet is just so big. So it is more the other makers and learning from them. I do implement things they do, but I also see so many times I do something first, and then all of a sudden the ideas start popping up on different wood turners. So it seems like we all gain inspiration from others, and there's nothing wrong with it as long as you don't copy the exact item. I don't mind anyone to make. I become quite famous on pinecone turnings, because I do a lot of pinecone projects, and I see a lot of people doing pinecones using similar kind of concept what I do. But you know what? They let it be. I don't mind if anyone using my because it gives me the pride that I inspire others.
And you've inspired other people to do whatever piece it is. The thing is, like, we can make
a pine cone.
Josh does come out with these sort of questions where he's sort of like, you just like, what?
Yeah. So and I also I learned a lot working with pine cones, and what I do compared to some of the others. Some people just throw them into a bowl, fill it up with resin, and then trying to turn them into a project. So what I do, I before I cast them into resin, I trim the pine cone. So I trim both sides of the pine cone, so I get to close to the middle part. The middle part is the one which has the nice coloring, and it has more of the wood. And then as I construct the projects, the end will showcase the inside of the pine cones. So if you have a look at my pine cone project, you see the actual pine cone, which just gives some really, really cool effects. But it's
very careful planning that you do, though. To do that, you're doing a lot of very careful planning with. You're not just throwing the piece in.
No,
you're purposely placing every pine cone, thinking where it will be in that project, aren't you? To expose the beauty of the interior, aren't you?
Absolutely. Even with the golf ball, with the recent golf ball vase, what I did, I cut the both ends of the golf balls so I can see the color inside. So when I build the vase and I put the golf balls into the molds, I can strategically place the golf balls so there is no two matching colors next to each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't just like to throw stuff into a pot, fill it with resin, and see how it's gonna turn. So I do have a plan what I think it will look good. And sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But most of the time, I try to carefully plan. I'm not those artists who will have like drawings what I exactly want to achieve, because sometimes I just cast something in resin, and then I will see how kind of the project dictates what I can turn out of it. Sometimes I know I want to make a vase, but I don't know the shape. So it's depending on how the wood is getting revealed, and where I can remove a little bit more materials. I
I
will
suppose it
go
also
along the
depends on what
journey.
actual product you're making. So if like, obviously you're not certain sizes with certain shapes might lead to different types of projects. So if you're doing a certain piece of, say, you've got a piece of stabilized firewood that you've stabilized, and then that will almost dictate a little bit that you'd only make certain things out of that particular item.
Yeah,
Is what you're saying, isn't it? Almost.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, that's crazy. That I just had a look at that Pinecone project.
Yeah, so
yeah,
I mean,
that's very clever thinking.
it is. I mean, it's quite. I mean, we've had Jerry on from Grantland Timber a few times. He's quite funny because he doesn't like wood turners. He said you're all a bunch of arseholes, and you're all dead finicky about what it is you use to turn. Like you only have certain bits with certain grains and this, that. Whereas it's the sort of thing where you certainly can't say it about you, because obviously, as you say, you're taking what is effectively trash and turning it into that beautiful piece, rather than taking a prime pristine piece of Purple Heart or Paducah or whatever, and then you're taking the piece of shit and making it into that beautiful item, aren't you? Do you know what I mean? You're really changing.
So before we start ending just here, David, can you tell us what social medias you're on?
So my obviously my kind of two primary account is Facebook. So this is where I post probably the most, and Facebook has the functionality where you can repost your previous content, so you don't have to re-upload your previous content. So I think it's a great platform, and I don't think many creators utilizing Facebook as good as it potentially can. And then YouTube. I use Instagram kind of just to socialize with other makers, and I do some postings, and then TikTok. But TikTok is really just to kind of ease off from social media, so I don't do much activity on TikTok for some reason. I just couldn't get the hang of TikTok and how to go well on TikTok. My content is kind of long form.
Yeah,
and
it's a bit
I was
hard to do on
struggling.
TikTok,
Honestly,
isn't it?
I was struggling to get my content out on TikTok and succeed. I had some good videos, so I'm about on 15,000 followers, but I can't really get the hang of TikTok. Maybe I should just do like tweezers and get some more hints and tips. But yeah, and also you get
different
to a stage
mindset.
and you get to a stage where it's just so many different social media platforms. So
yeah, you have to be in the YouTube head, then you've got to change your head to TikTok head, and then change your mind to Instagram. And it's all like, and it all merges into one. And sometimes you get confused with the platforms, but you're doing a TikTok on Instagram. Or fucking hell.
And even now, if I do a video edit, there is a video edit needs to be done on Facebook. Then I need to tweak that to YouTube. Different length, different format. Then if we talk about Instagram or YouTube, then you can't do landscape. You need portraits. So then you need to recut. So it's just so many. And I'm a working man and family man, so I do need some time for my family as well. I can't be editing all the time. And honestly, editing is not the greatest part of my job, but
Are you at a stage
vital.
Can you employ an editor yet? Are you at that?
Honestly, I did.
Stage?
Yeah, I did thought about it, and the first time I remember my very first video, it was like a 6 minutes video, and I spent like 5 hours editing. And now, if I have everything done and everything is in the software, I can edit a 12 minutes video in 45 minutes if I just get on and do it.
I'm spending 2 days editing a video still. Do you know what I mean?
And you know what? And I try to not overcomplicate. So I don't do like special effects and everything. But if you look at my recent video on the Barbie project, which is live on YouTube, it has it's an 11 minutes video, but it has probably 200 cuts. So, learning from Mr. Beast, which, one of the greatest YouTuber on the planet, his videos are cut like every 2 or 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And that's important because that keeps the vibe, the viewer brain occupied, where everything is constantly changing on the screen. It keeps the viewer attention. So, now I'm achieving well over 50% retention, which is, on an
really
11 minutes, an 11 minutes video that's over 5 or 6 minutes, that will
That's
only
really
feed
good.
YouTube. I need to push this content. So you have to learn from others. And even though Mr. Beast is not in my field of expertise in terms of his content is very different, you have to learn from people who's successful on YouTube.
Yeah, it is. There
And,
is definite sort of like bits that we can use across whatever. Because at the end of the day, as you say, that's the content side, and it doesn't matter what your content is. You still need to follow the same sort of structure and basic pattern, don't you?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
How many cameras do you film with? Do you have like 3 or 4 going at once or not?
Oh no, I have one camera and then I moved it. So it was funny.
You moved it 200 times.
Exactly. It was funny because I was showing one edit to one of my friends where I had to move the camera 4 times to get a 3 seconds footage. So because I just wanted to show how I attached the piece onto the lathe, and as I was turning different part of the lathes, I had to always move and then refocus my camera to get the 3 second shots. Obviously, that doesn't mean I do need to spend so much time for that 11 minutes video, but I do have to move my camera a lot. So when I film, it's probably doubles, if not triples, the time to produce the content.
Quadruples.
It's so
I do find. I mean, something I find.
I use only one.
A lot of B-roll. I mean, I was at a little festival demo day yesterday, and I was doing a few little pieces on some of the new tools, and I actually spent about 10 minutes taking different shots, moving different buttons, just all for B-roll. So as you say, when you come to it, when I'm putting the piece of wood down and cutting it, but then all the B-roll's there, which I'll clip all in together. And it is the B-roll that takes all the time, isn't it? And then editing that into...
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. But again, from a viewer point of view, is great because, that 3 or 4 seconds footage has 4 different camera angles. So you don't feel the need to fast forward. Compared to my previous videos, I had maybe for 30 seconds, I was showing the same footage, me sending a piece. You become very bored after 2 seconds or 3 seconds looking at the same maneuver. So then I have to learn from those mistakes, and then now, like, I always trying to evolve my edits, but I do very frequent cuts. So I thought about outsourcing the edits, but I do like to have that control where I can always kind of learn from others and then implement and see how it goes. But I might do some trials how other people edit. But again, when you need to have like 3-4 different edits for a video, it's just, I don't know, maybe it just doesn't really work. And since I know it doesn't take too much of my time, it probably doesn't really worth outsource it.
That's interesting. Yeah, right, I think that's a good place to leave it today. So I will leave David's social media links in the description / comments down below. If you have any questions for any of us, you can reach us at our Instagram pages, Facebook pages, email us, get in touch, we'll answer your questions. We are on all Audible platforms, YouTube and social medias. So thank you very much, David, for taking the time out of your day to join us for the last hour or so. Any final thoughts, Josh, or anything you'd like to add on to that before we leave it?
Just thank you, David. This is a very interesting and entertaining podcast for myself. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the invite, Paul and Josh. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Excellent. All right. Thanks very much, everyone. We shall catch you next week.
All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.